a class A IP address, private will be 10.9.9.1. So once I click on this subnet mask, right, so you should give me the subnet mask for class A. So if I do once, okay, let me erase this. So if let me erase this. So if I do 172.16.18.1, right, so it gives me 255.255.0.0. Right, so give me class B subnet mask. So if I do 192.168.maybe 20.1, right, so it gives me 255.255.255.0. So this one is much more common, right? So because of this first octet, and find that this range falls between class C, because class C is from 192 to 223, class B is
Yeah.
from class B is
128.
128 to
191.
191, right?
Mm.
So that's class B. You get, so if the first octet falls between that range, within that range, right? So the subnet max will get a subnet max for that particular class, or respective class. So that's for that. So now that's why we have this. So now how do we come up? How did we come about this? Right. So you just say 255. No. So in this aspect here, the 255 here represent the network. Why the 000 represent the computers in that network. Right. So the computers in that network. So this 255 is fixed, is constant, represent the network ID. Then this one here, 0.0.0, means that they are for computers. That's why for class A, we can have 10.1.2.3. We can have 20.1. We can be manipulating the second, third, and fourth octet. But we shouldn't manipulate the first octet. Let's say my network now. Right, so okay, before going to the aspect, now here we have 11111. So these are 8 ones, right? So 0000. Right, so if you calculate the value of this, it's still 128. Same thing we did that the 128 64, 128 64, 32, 16, 8, 4, 2, 1.
Mm.
Right, so this is 128 64. Right, so 32, 16. So if you calculate everything here, you will get 255. As if you calculate everything here, you will get 255. So
Mm.
you see, let me just do the calculation. So you see 128 plus 64 plus 32 plus 16 plus 8 plus 1. I think I didn't add something. I didn't add, I think I missed something. Yeah, so
Version
120, yeah,
18.
yes, 128 plus 64 plus 32
32
plus
plus
16 plus 8 plus 4 plus
plus 2
2 plus
plus 1.
1. So that's 255. Right, so that's 255. So it means that all for subject mass, all the ones here, the first octet, the one represent the network. Why these ones here are for the host. So now, so let me bring out one one IP address for class A. Right, so this is the network address for class A, a valid network address. Right, so with this subnet mask, so this is subnet mask for this network address 255.0.0. So subnet mask doesn't change, right? So it's always constant, but it can be, we have variable length subnet masks that CIDR and then classless interdomain routing, right? So now this is the network address. This is subnet mask. Then the valid host range will be 10 dots. Okay, then because this class A, I cannot list type all the valid host range to be too much, right? So for class A, make provision for more computers. So let's say this is a valid IP address. So this one will be 10.23.23.1. Is for a particular network. Oh, let's say in a local area network, this is what they will have.
Mm.
First one will be 10 dots. So I can have 90, I have 98. So another computer can have 10 dots, 12 dots, 12 dots, 3. Right. So another one can have 10.123.123.4. Like that. So another one can have 10 dots. You can see that first one doesn't change. Right, that first one doesn't change because of the subnet mask here say 255. So it means that it is constant. So when we are configuring any IP address, whether class A, B, or C, right? So if it's class B, right, it means that the first and the second octet shouldn't change. Right, if it's class B. So we can now manipulate the third and the fourth for the computers in our local area network. Right. So if this computer, so let me give you a typical example now. Right, so this one has, let me close all these things. So this one has I don't know what's wrong with this thing. Okay, it's just acting up. So here we have, let me configure 10 dots, 10 dots, 0 dots, 9 dots, 1, right? So it gives me this. So let me configure state class A. I'll configure 10 dots, 80.80.1. Right, so just click here, gives me the subnet mask. There's no computer or no device that would have an IP address without a subnet mask. So as I say, an IP address is never complete without a subnet mask. It's not complete without a subnet mask. So 10 dots, let's say 40, 45 dots, 45 dots plus 1. Right, so if I say I'm only manipulating the second, third, and fourth. Right, so
So
because of the
listen,
subnet mask,
the subnet
yes,
mask is always
says
constant.
255, yeah. So it's says 255. Then the second, third, and fourth can be manipulated for computers in a network. Right, so this fourth one now, I'll give this one 11. It's still class A. Oh. Right, so but let me just give it 11. So 11 dots, 19 dots, 21 dots. Still class A. The same
Subnet mask.
standard marked because of the range. But if I try to push packets from here now, right, so from here to here, see success, right? If I
Yeah.
push packets from here to here, success. I push packets from here, I don't know if I push to this place, see
Same.
success. Right, so if I push packets from here to here, it will fail, definitely it will fail. So let me show it will fail. This is it.
Oh,
So it's
okay.
gonna fail
So
because
why that? Because the subnet masks were the same.
mhm.
So why
Yes,
did
but
it fail?
they are in a different network. It's just like I'm in a street now. I live at Atlanta, you live at Chicago, right? So two different streets, right? So we've not been routed to communicate to each other, right? So our network and my network address, because I live in Atlanta, my name of my street is Atlanta. So the network address can be 10.0.0.0. Yours you live at maybe a different street, maybe Chicago, right? So your own is 11.0.0.0. Right, so all the computers or houses in my state, we have 10.1.1.2. That's their unique. And I will have 10.20. That first one, because the subject mass for me is 255.0.0. It means that that first that first ID or byte of that shouldn't change. Should be fixed. Right, so I can,
Okay.
yeah, so then in Chicago they can be doing 11.11, 11.2 dot so like that. You should now configure into other than 11, the first one, which
Mm,
is 255 represent network as well.
mm.
000 is for the computers or devices, right? So you configure something other than that. There will not be any communication. You get so that's that's by the way. So yeah, now we have um Right, so that's for that aspect. Now, okay, let me finish up with class B and C. Right, so for please for class A. Right, so
Mm.
for class B here. So class B is 255.255.0.0. So that's class B subnet max. So if we're picking any IP here, let's say this one. Let's pick this one. Right, so this is a valid IP address. And this is a valid IP address. So if I pick this here, the network address for this will be this is a valid IP address I just published. The network address will be 172 um 17.0.0. That will be the network address. Right, so because this tells us that 255.255, so that first circle will be fixed. Then the subnet mask is 255.255.0.0. Right, so this will be the name of the street. And this will not be the valid houses, the valid IP addresses in that street. Right, so then we'll have 172.17.100.1. Again, so we'll have 172.17.60.1 or it like that 172.17.200.200. So they can give any IP address, right? So, but by the time they change the first or and the second, or change the first or the second octet,
Mm.
automatically they are not in that network. They can't communicate.
Okay.
Not like the IP address
Okay.
will not be, not like IP address will not become correct, right? So, but in that network, they cannot
They communicate.
communicate.
There will not be. There will
Yes,
not be
they want to
communication.
communicate, right? So, because the first one and second octet, they are meant to be fixed, right? So,
Okay.
that's what it means. So, the same thing applies to class C. Right, so class A is 55.255.255.0. Right, so that's class C. Right, so then a valid IP address is what I have here. So the valid network address is 192.168.10.0. That's the network address for this valid IP. So
Mm.
you can have 10.1, 10.2, 10.3. If I change this one to 11, we are not in that network.
Network.
So because
Okay.
it already tells us that the first, second, third must be fixed since it's class C. You get
Okay.
so then we can now
Okay.
manipulate the third one. I mean the fourth one. You can
First
give this
one.
one
Okay.
1, 2, 3 like that. So all these are valid IP address. So 254. So it cannot be more than 254. Right, so this is the network address. You understand? So
Okay.
that's how we got it. So the broadcast address. So I'm going to still explain broadcast, even though I explained it here. Right, so I'll still come back to it again. But the broadcast address here in this case here, it's let me do this 192.168.10.255. So we don't assign this to any computer, right? So we assign this will be used to communicate to everybody in this network. If we have 10.1, 10.2, 10.3, 10.5, 10.6, 10.7, let's say we have 20 computers active, 10.1, 2, 3 to 10.20. And so you as you want to communicate to everybody in that network, you're going to initiate this broadcast address on the tool you're using to communicate. Instead of typing the IP address one time, you just type this broadcast. It's go to everybody in that network. And the message will go to everybody in that network. So that's the broadcast address. Right. So for this one, their own broadcast address is 172 dot which one am I doing? Right, so this one, their own broadcast address. Let me do it as the broadcast address to be 172.17.255.255. So that's their broadcast address. Right. So everybody want to send, you don't give it to a computer. By this class A, their own broadcast address would be um own broadcast address would be 10.255.255.2. That means we don't I guess we don't assign this. This will be their broadcast address, right? So and then for class B, I this one same thing I showed you for class A applies to class B, right? So for class B, where's class B? So for class B, so this is its own this is class B on subnet max in binary. Right, so the one I showed you here is in decimal, so I'm just going to replace this like this. This for class B. Right, so this is how it should be. Right, so this for class B. Right, so you understand how we got this. So
Mm.
because this is 255, 255. So if you add everything here, you get 255. Have you added everything here, you get 255. So if it's for class C now, right, so if it's for class C, yes, class C is for class C, we'll have this. Right, so we'll have this here, of this. So this is what we'll have for class C. You get it now. So you if you add everything here, add everything here, add everything here. I mean if you add everything here, you get 5 5, add everything here, you get 5 5. You get to 5 5. So then the last one is for devices in that network. Right. So where we don't have too many computers, we don't have more than 254 computers, we use class C. Right, so in every local area network, and most of the times you see that we use class C. If it's class B, it's a bit confusing, you have the say, or you want to be manipulating the third and the fourth octet. It will not be easy for you to get used to all your IP addresses because so give them on 90.2, so give them on 2.200, like that. If they're manipulating two octets, this is class B. But if it's class C, they're only manipulating the fourth octet you get. You understand? So
Mm.
that's fine. Right, so that's that aspect. So and that's where we'll do the cutting on IP for today, right? So and then we'll begin to configure. So the one what we have left here is just one. So I've talked about this. Right, so I've talked about this. So there's nothing more. So the only thing we need to look at now is this aspect. And so this is the aspect that's a bit technical, and I still want you to go back before we do that aspect. Right, so if you don't, if you have to review some of the things we've done before on IP, especially on the IP addressing, second and the third class. So if not, right, so when you review, you use 10 minutes to just tell me what you understand IP, then I'll come in, right? So based on what we've done, then I'll summarize and um um just add more points to what you'll be saying. Then we can now move to subnetting. Right, so that's fine. That's all for that aspect. Right, so now we're going to start configuring uh our network. Right, so you see this network we have here.
Mm.
So we'll be setting four. Okay, three. We'll be setting three. Right, so we'll be setting three. Right, so I would have said let's go into subnetting now. Right, so but it's really late, and
So go
it's
through the other ones again,
yeah, it's gonna be a bit I know it's gonna be a bit going
yeah.
tasky. Gonna be it's not really it's easy though, but I want us to
Just take
do
it
this
easy, yeah.
configuration. Yeah. I want us to do this configuration. So you see what I'm doing, right?
Yeah.
So me, I don't save my work. Right, so you really see, so it's after you've done this, right? So once you set this voluminous, like this large network, so you'll be using your own, right? So the next time, like me, I'm going to only configure this. I'm going to only configure this while you configure everything. So when we come, you send, so everything you configure here, you send it to me, right? So you have your first task today, right? So for assignment, so you send it to me, right? So just send it with your name, and I'll tell you the name, what to add to it again. So I'll forward it to my to my team. So this is the router isn't 2621 XM router. So this network I'm setting up here. So I'm going to be explaining everything one after the other. So right, so now let me do the third one. It's the same thing that I'm doing here. It's the same thing I'll do here, right? So you're going to duplicate this, right? So duplicate this networks into one, you get two and three. So let me just stop there. Right, so now I'll start with configuration. Can you hear me? Right, so
Yeah,
you have
yeah,
to,
yeah.
yes, you have to pay utmost attention. So you follow me. I'm only going to do this, and you do the three before we meet. Right, so these are all computers like
Mm.
you you've seen. So computer, we talked about network devices, or I don't know if I when I click on this, it doesn't show here. It just come here, and I don't want to close this thing. Okay, don't know why. Right, so this is one of the computer and the first network. So we're going to give this network's name based on location. Right, so the three networks. Right, so you can give this one maybe Birmingham, give or you give this Liverpool, give this Manchester, then you give another one the name. So we'll be referring, if we want to
Okay.
make talk about, we'll make mention of, we say, I'll tell you, okay, Chicago land. So to be easier, like so, or Newcastle land. You get, so you choose a name, you give it, so because the name will be at the top. Right, so but for me, I will use always would use Chicago here. Right, so we have this. Okay, let me know and just do that now. So this first line here, right? Um, these are all the computers. So we're using a 24 port switch, and we've exhausted only 5 ports of that switch, right? So a 24 port switch, we've used only 5 ports. So the 5 ports, they're connected to these 4 computers and one connected to the router. Remember, I say router, they are the king of the network.
Yeah.
Routers are logical in nature. Routers, each port of a router represents a separate network, while the switch are physical in nature. They are hardware based. So they don't really need switches also need IP address to function. And the
Yeah.
switches are you just only register MAC addresses of computers that are attached to them. Right, so you don't really need IP address, but router without IP address, router can't function, doesn't know where to pass
Communicate.
packets to. Doesn't know where to pass packets to. So that's why the router would need IP address. So this is a modular router, like the one I showed you last time. I explained modular and wireless. So this one, why is it a modular router? Is because this thing is hiding somewhere. You know why it's hiding there. So it has slots where we can add more cards. So we'll be adding card right to these routers. So it has more slots where we'll add more cards. Right, so and these are the different slots. You can see changing here. So these are the different. So we can just drag and drop here. We'll have to first of all shut down the router, if not it won't install. Right, so now um it's a cat either 5 or 6 cable. Right, so and then where it's a straight through connection. Right, so because we are connecting two different devices. So remember I say these devices are the same. Right, so we use crossover in this simulation. Right, so we use if it's computer to computer, we use crossover. Right, so if it's switch to switch, we use crossover. But at times, if it's router to router, we can use straight through or use crossover or we use a serial cable. Depends on the actual ports we are connecting the cable to. Right, so that will not determine the kind of cable to use or what network, what are we trying to establish, determine the kind of cable we get and the ports the cable to be connected to. Right, so now we have this first network, which I'll call Chicago. Right, so this Chicago land and this Manchester land, right? So let me take this to the right a little. Right, so this Manchester land. So now, to configure this router, right? You know, when we assume you just got this router, this is you're the manager, you are the network administrator here, or the network engineer, or the IT security personnel in this local area network, the chief of. maybe this IT department, right? So when you just buy a router newly, like so it's not really proper. You just connect the router straight to your network, just like the way we have it connected straight to our network, right? So we first want to connect it to our laptop because nothing has been configured, right? So that means we'll call up another laptop here, right? So connect it to our laptop, right? So using a console cable, we're going to access the router using there's no IP address, so we can access the router via any of um these computers here, right? So we can use this a direct the computer connects straight to it directly. They will now connect use a console cable, right? So that will connect to the ROS232 ports of this computer and connect it to the console ports of this router. So the router has console ports, right? So the console ports and auxiliary, they are the management ports. Right? So let me show you. So this is the can you hear me?
Yes.
So this is the console port. So this is where I just connected this cable now. So I connected it to this port, the console port. So this is the auxiliary port. So to configure this router, I need to connect it to this port first. Right. So that the way that your task when we're configuring, there was no cable connected at it. But best practice, you have to connect it straight for the first time with a laptop. But what do that we can come to CLI here, just like what we did when we were configuring that file. Then we'll start configuring, but that's not best practice because if you have to submit something that would be marked based on um, your understanding of how the reality of how it is in a standard network. So they want to see how you connected or how you communicated, how you're able to access the um, command line environment of the router. So this is how it should be like this. So we're use a console cable to connect to the RS232 ports of this. That's the COM port of this laptop. Then to the console ports of this router. So that's it. So now, right, so there are some, let me show you this. So there are some, what will I call it? There are some routers. Okay, let me show you a console cable. So it's a console cable. You see, this is a console cable. Can you see my screen? So I just went to Google now to show you the console. This is a console cable. You can see it's not like a usual network cable. Then we now have this, right? So most computers doesn't have COM ports, right? So like this computer we have here doesn't, some doesn't. This one has COM ports. So the one that doesn't have COM ports, but they would have either USB or Type C, right? So then the ones that has COM ports, right? So this one, right? So this is which is this. We connect this to the console. This is the console cable. So this is like the converter, the serial, so USB converter. So this one will connect it. Then this one will go to the laptop. While this one will go to the router. So that's why we have this one. There are some straight up. It's just to the this goes to the router. This USB goes to the computer. Right. So some are Type C. Right. So they are Type C. So that's essentially. So here we have. So now that's by the way. So here we have we connected this computer to the console port, right? So we're going to access the command line environment of um this router. So to do that, so we'll click on this computer, right? So we'll go to desktop. So go to desktop. We're going to terminal, right? So we're going to be configuring um well, you're going to be setting up a switch your network or me on your lab, right? So I mean a router on your lab. So you get to see different ways of accessing and configuring a switch, right? So whenever you're connecting or you're accessing a router for the first time, this is the prompt you will get after it has finished loading. all of this loading, telling you the processing capability, the model, the build of the device, all of this necessary information. At the end of it, you see continue with configuration dialog, yes or no. Right, so at this instance here, you don't want to do yes. If you say yes and hit enter, right, so the router will guide you on what to do. Right, so the router will tell you every step, everything you will do. Just like when someone that enters the room, you say turn to the right, enter, keep the cup you are holding. Okay, drink the water, move a step backward, move forward like that. So, but it just only came to pick a pen and maybe a jotter, so you know you drink water, you don't want to enter so the router will tell you do this. But if you don't do this, and if you don't do exactly what the router is telling you will not go to the next stage, or you will not even progress. So all these things that the router will tell you to configure, probably you don't need them at that moment. You just want to configure IP address, or you just want to configure banner, just want to just make one important configuration, then later do all the necessary configuration. Right, so that's it. So better you do no, right? So you do no. If you say no, you are in charge of the router, right? So you say no, then hit enter again. Because when you hit enter the first time, you might not see your cursor until you hit enter again. So now this is router enable. So like I said, this is the aspect I want you to, because I'll be typing everything, right? So in case you see any mistake, because I'm typing this in offhand, and then I'll try to see if I can let me open another Word document for this. So I want to see if I can make it bolder again. So let's see, this will be 17. So you see something like this router. When you hit that enter, you see something like this router enable. Right, so this is what it is, right? So router enable. So then what you type here, remember when we're configuring that this thing, I will type enable, right? So when
Yeah.
you're configuring that when you're doing that assignment, so this is the only command here, the important command to type here whenever you see a router with a greater
Enable.
than, right? So it's
Okay.
enable, right?
Do you
So
want to put
and
before the router? Do you want to put the terminal? Abi? Up.
right,
Want to
so
put
router
terminal up?
enable. I didn't get that.
I said you want to put terminal up before router enable.
No. Router enable comes first. So user mode. Maybe I didn't get you. I'll go back there so you explain. So when you see whenever you see router, right? So only thing you type there is enable. Router with a greater than sign. So that's the user mode. So it's the less secured mode. So on this mode, we don't do any configuration, right? So we don't do any sort of configuration here. So after you do that, so the next thing you see is this router with a hash like this. So then the only thing you type here is terminal, configure terminal, right? So that's the only thing you type there. So I'm trying to. So if I do, to check, you see that then the privilege mode. So this is privilege mode. This is privilege mode, right? So it's less secured. This is not secure at all. This is less secured, right? So now on this privilege mode here, the only thing we'll type there is configure terminal. Yeah, so if I press my tab key, it helps me to complete it. That's what I was trying to tell you that day, which we later saw it too. Whenever you type in, let me erase now. Configure, so I press tab key, it helps me, right? So terminal, so the system knows that. Yes,
Yes,
so
what
this
you
is what
want
I'm
to type.
trying to spell. Yes, so but at times there are some words that the first three letters will be uh be part of the option. So you have to, when you are not too sure, type the fourth one, the fourth letter, and add the fourth letter, so it will now help you to complete. Let's say for instance now this configure, then maybe we have concept, we have configure, then we have connect, and you type con. After I don't know which of the is connect or concept, so that means you have to do conf. You know that yes, it's configure. You get, so when you press the tab key, it helps you to complete it. So or we do shift question mark to show you all the options that we have. Right, so now configure terminal, then hit enter. So it takes me straight to global mode. Right, so this is global mode here. So this is what you would see. Take something like this. Yeah, so you see, so this is what you see. This is what you see. Um, right. So this is what you see. So on this mode, so this is where you do all the configurations. So this is the global mode. So whenever you hear me say go to the global mode, you know what to do. If I say go to the if you're on the global mode, you want to go to privilege mode, you just type exit. Right, to take you to privilege mode straight up. Right, so if you're on privilege, you want to go to global mode, type if you're on the privilege, you want to go to global mode, you type configure terminal, take you straight to global mode. So on this global mode, this is the most secured mode. So this is the mode that will do all necessary configuration like IP addressing, telnet, SSH, firewall, access list, NAT, VLAN, or any configuration want to do on the router. So it's on this global mode. Right, so why this privilege mode is the mode we do more of troubleshooting, seeing what you've done on the router, what is running, right? So want to see CDP neighbors. That's Cisco discovery protocol. Right, so you get to see it from this mode. So we can as well see it from this mode. Yeah, we'll get to see additional command. Right, so now let's just move on now. So I'll be it faster, yes, because you have to do this thing that I'm doing like yourself, right? So
Okay.
after you do it yourself in my presence, right? So you do the remaining two. But say you're adding three networks as an assignment, finish it up and share with me. Then we'll build upon that network because that's where when we start talking about subnetting, right? So we get to connect the three routers together and then okay, so now we have this configure router config. So as a global mode. So what do you want to configure? You want to configure the first one to configure is the host name. Right. So because this router is showing us router config. So if you are the network administrator, right? So or I'm the network administrator in this branch or in this branch, right? So you came to my organization, I'm not around, maybe I'm on leave, right? So you are setting on my routers. So if you see router here, you might be confused. Say whose device or which branch is this? Because you can from one router access other routers. But if I change the name here to Chicago, or if we give it a proper label or something, the host name, host name is like a computer name.
Mm.
So Chicago. So I mean, just say okay. Let me just add this case sensitive. So Chicago hyphen router. So one word. If I do Chicago space router, it will not accept it. So if I do Chicago hyphen router, it's the word that connects it to it. But I've already indicated host name here. Right. So
Mm.
just say Chicago hyphen router. So immediately you do that, you see that Chicago router is now Chicago router. You can see it here, right? So it's not Chicago router. That's it stated here. So the next thing you want to do is banner, right? So banner MOTD. So banner space MOTD. That's message of the day. That's what MOTD means. Message of the day. Right. So what it means is that so anybody that is accessing the router, that message they would see, that notification, that message, that prompt they would see, either to scare them, welcome, or direct them to say this router belongs to this group or belongs to this team. Please, if you don't have your password, don't even come close. If you are not a bona fide member of, so don't even try to access something they would see before they gain access. So even though they have the password or they can ask for the password, at least you know that there's a warning or there's a direction or there's something that there's like a clue for whoever is accessing it. Right, so that's banner. Right, so like when you go to most compound, you see beware of this, beware of dogs, beware of XY, like that. So that's how it is. Do you understand? So that's the
Yeah.
banner. Right, so now the command is banner MOTD. Right, so I'm going to type it as you're setting up your network. I'll be typing everything on this Word document. I'll share with you. So right, so you'll be looking at the Word document. So banner MOTD. So then I will now add the character. Right, so I can add dollar, I can add percent, I can add at, I can add hash. Right, so I always like adding at. Right, so I'm used to. So what it means is that whatever I'm typing, right? So the message I'll be typing, I would end it with at. If not, the message will not end. So it will keep typing. But once I type at the end of the message, the welcoming message or the fighting message, it means that the sentence has ended. Right. So once you hit enter now, it tells you enter text message and end with the character, as you can see, end with that character. So if you use dollar here, that means you end with dollar. Right. So I'll say
Okay.
this network or this router belongs to Chicago. Belongs to Chicago. All trespassers or all intruders, stay off, stay off. So if I keep hitting enter or type it will not, it will assume I'm still the word the sentence is hasn't finished. But once I just do at when I hit enter, it ends it. You get, so it ends that message. So that's that aspect now. Right. So the next thing I want to do is what again? Um Okay, let's do enable secrets, right? So the same thing we did that. So enable space secrets. All right. So enable space secrets. So which password? We want to password in global mode. So we don't want anybody like this guy that just connected straight using a console cable. He just connected to the router using a console cable, right? So and starts configuring this router. If all people are not around, so whenever someone tries to connect to the router, person should provide this password will be setting up,
Fault.
right? So that's the enable secret password. So it is encrypted. So I'll give it Chicago 54321. So hit enter. Right, so that's all. Right, so as you start typing, you're seeing the password. But when you try to log in again or you're doing um show on or show start on your router, you see that the password is encrypted. So the next one I want to do is a line console. The line console password. Line console 0. So what that 0 means there is okay, let me explain the line. Yeah, the line is this. Line console is this. So I'm trying to password this port. So anybody that wants to access this router now, you're passwording that console port that I showed you. So if you accessing the router via that console port, the first password prompt you get is the console password which you are setting up. After you've gotten the console password correctly, right? So you cannot type the enable secret password. So for 0 here means that it is just one port. That's what it means. It is just one physical port. Right, so that's what 0 means. Assuming we have two console ports, we say it will be 0 space 1. As we have two console ports. So for 0 there is just one. So I made a mistake there. It's telling me something is wrong. Okay, I didn't spell the console well. So console console. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so if you need me to phrase something, let me know. So now the next thing to type, like I said, this is command. So we started configuring, and it's just like 2% of commands and stuff to be typing. So this is just the building up of networks you get. So and then as we move on, practice and tasks assignments makes us um improve. Right, so password, I'll give it Chicago 5432. Right, so I don't know if I typed it correctly. Yeah, so the word password is the command, and Chicago is the actual password we want to give. So anybody that is accessing this router now, yeah, a console cable. Okay, I'll be done with my configuration, so I will now go home. Someone else will come to my office and connect, so they will have to provide this password. So after they provided the password and they got it correctly, right? So they should log in. So the next thing to type here is login. So if I don't type login, there's no way they will they will not get it. It will not they will not be able to log in. It should just be rolling and then you're not logging successfully, so I have to type login. Right, so that's it. Right, so the next one I want to do now, which is important, right? So is to configure this, right? So it's to configure not line VTY. So that's the line VTY. Right, so that anybody that wants to, in case I'm done, like let's assume this router is in the server room and the switch, they will now run cable. So all our offices to connect to this switch. Some might be wireless because this switch can be connected to wireless router can be connected to the switch, right? So all the computers are connected wirelessly to the network via the wireless router, but the wireless router is connected to the switch. So if anybody wants to access this router now, okay, let me use myself as an example. This is me here. I'm done. And I close this. I'm not disconnected, right? So I say let me keep my cable. So I'm going back to my office. I'll sit in my office comfortably to access this router and do all other necessary configuration because it doesn't end. Because I think someone sent me a message one time. One of the guy all right, so he said his office where he's working, right? So wants to learn how to configure router. Like he did it at some point when I was explaining something to him, right? So say he just wants to learn. I say most times it's based on scenario because there are a whole lot of configuration on that router. So what do you want to achieve, right? So that's why we'll come up with scenarios or tasks you get. So because it can be configuring, end of the day, you never configure up to 20% of what can be configured on it. So it's just tasks. You know the purpose of a router, what a router should do, or what a switch. Then you know what to configure. Just say, okay, we want to configure XYZ, or you check online. So how do we configure that, right? So you know the mode where you be to configure maybe the global mode, all of that, because you know what NAT is all about. So your scenario will be created for. So that's that. So for this here, we have we need these computers to be able to connect to this router, but it's only those that we give password. Right. So the command is line VTY. So line space VTY space 0 space 4. Right, so it means that not more than 5 persons can connect to this router at the same time because people here too can decide to connect. By the time we establish this network so that people and these two can be connecting, can be this one here can access this router, this one here can access this router. So no more than four, no more than 5 persons. That's what 0 to 4. 0 here means 1. So not more than 5 persons can connect to the router at the same time. So they will not type password. Right, so password and what again? So give it the password, say Chicago. I'm just giving you simple password, right? So, but you configure your own password, right? So app Chicago 543, right? So then you say login. You must type login. If you don't type login, at the end of the week, you lose. I mean, they will not be able to access, right? So, but even though the person tries to access, right? So this one, when we are configuring, just configure. When we are done with all the IP address assignment and routing configuration, so we have three major configurations to do on this network. All these ones are just fundamentals, putting the network in place, IP addressing and the likes. So the other three major aspects would come in, right? So one will come in next meeting, and that will come the next meeting after this, right? So why one will come like we'll end it after the next session on this, after the next two sessions, we'll end it. So the another will come like we'll visit this again like maybe in February or so to do one or two tasks again. So that's for security purpose. That's port security and virtual local area network. So now that's all for this aspect. So what's left for me now is to configure out. Okay, let me say exit. If I type exit will take me one step backward. But if I type end, right, so end will take me straight to privilege mode. Just hit enter again. Take me straight to privilege mode. So I can now say right here to save my configuration. Or I do copy run start. Right, so hit enter twice to save my configuration. If I want to go to global mode, just say config T. If I don't ever want to do type it in full, it accepts abbreviation. So it has taken me to global mode. If I want to save here, maybe I'm here, I don't want to going back and forward again to save. I can just say do right. If I'm on this mode, it will save. Or do copy run start. So anything you're doing, you're typing here, which by default is meant to be typed on privilege mode. Once you do type do in front, it will allow you. So do copy run start. So what it means is we are copying what is currently running, right? So startup config. Startup config is the NVRAM. It's like the flash card or the hard drive of this router. So do copy run start. So enter twice. Start. So that's that's by that. So that's all for this aspect. So then one more thing here. which I will do. Right, so it's it's to configure IP address. Should we configure IP now? I think yeah, but I want us to do that subnetting. Even though you configure IP, I'll still have to explain it again. But let's just leave the IP. Right, so